it's Brittany.
And Eric.
And we are back again with a very special episode of our Quibi show, The Nod with Brittany and Eric.
This week, we're talking about, student loan debt. We've all heard it. Go to college and you'll land your dream job and a successful career. But at what cost?
Over 44 million Americans are faced with student debt, and Black people are disproportionately affected.
Today, New York Times best-selling author Michael Arceneaux joins us to talk about his new book, I Don't Want to Die Poor. Plus, he'll share some tips on how to deal with student debt.
Don't go anywhere. This is The Nod. Student debt has reached an all-time high of $1.6 trillion in the U.S.
And on average, Black graduates owe $7,400 more than their white peers. And in the next 4 years, that gap is expected to triple to $25,000.
Additionally, Black graduates earn less money coming out of college than white graduates, making it harder to pay down loans.
In his latest book, I Don't Want to Die Poor, author Michael Arceneaux writes about the private loan debt he accumulated while attending Howard University and how it affected all areas of his life.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me during the plague. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you. And I gotta say, when I saw the title of your book, I Don't Want to Die Poor, I thought to myself, at every point in my life, I feel that. Yeah, but tell us, why did you want to write this book right now?
I didn't really put time on it per se, but I just think off the bat, I'm really sick of the way college debt is talked about. It's either it's really, really bad, or people did some ridiculous thing to get off their debt, which is really silly. I want to talk about debt in the way it's actually really impacting people, particularly Black college graduates and Black college graduates of all types in general. Yeah.
If you don't mind getting into it,
sure.
What did your dream of going to college cost you, in numbers?
In total, it was about a little over 6 figures. The primary loan that paid for Howard for the most part, $60,000 principal. In about 13 years, I've spent about $95,000 on it already. It's just a lack of fact that for a lot of people, we don't have access to certain capital. We don't come from certain backgrounds, so they take advantage of us. I try to put it in the context of I took the educational equivalent of a subprime mortgage loan.
A lot of the conversation around student debt, I think, tends to focus typically on the number, how much you owe, how long it's going to take for you to pay back, how much interest, have you accrued over time. But in the book, what you really get at is the emotional cost of pursuing your dreams or getting an education. Talk to us more about that part.
I wanted to talk about that in terms of how it really impacts every facet of your life instead of just kind of even I'm broke. So how does it impact you emotionally in terms of your dating? In some cases, how does it magnify trauma that you kind of grew up with? Wanted to also recognize to your question, there is an emotional weight that we carry in addition to the physical debt. But I think if people really you don't necessarily have to have student loan debt to read this and to look at, where we are now, all of us, and kind of to see people being screwed more so for reasons that are not their fault. Or at least you should not just solely be blaming yourself for a situation that you did in earnest and with the best intentions.
Yeah, and I mean, this year is kind of I think it compounds a lot of what a lot of people have been feeling, obviously with the pandemic and the kind of subsequent, economic fallout. How do you think the current economic state of things is affecting Black people with substantial student debt?
Whenever there's a crisis in the country, we feel the worst of it. We have more debt just by virtue of, again, starting from behind and trying to crawl our way up. And, Black graduates, even if you didn't necessarily have a substantial amount of debt, the reality is your college degree doesn't allow you the same ability to generate wealth the way a white high school graduate still. So it's just kind of highlighting what was already there.
To that end, the statistic is it takes the average person 20 years to pay back their student debt, while a lot of people are, building their lives, starting entry-level work, trying to start families, or having to take care of parents and loved ones. It's a lot to do all at once. Are there any policies or initiatives that you think our leaders, our government, could be putting in place to make this easier on people?
Elizabeth Warren and Bernie in particular really brought debt cancellation to a national conversation.
We are going to cancel all student debt in this country.
And to Joe Biden's credit, was not my first, second, third, fourth pick, but Auntie slapped us all down, and it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But I do give him credit in that, piggybacking off of some of Elizabeth Warren's influence, that he does have an initiative about some level of debt forgiveness. It's not as high as Bernie or as with Liz, but there's a caveat in that if you are a black college graduate specifically and you make under $125,000, I believe it's like total debt cancellation. Because I think that's really one important way to kind of help a lot of people who are going to default this year, and that's also going to stop them from being able to buy houses and rent apartments. So it's like, let's fix the problem by giving people a break.
As you mentioned, like a lot of people are really going to be struggling this year, and probably in subsequent years to come. What advice would you give to recent grads who are coming out, who are trying to figure out how to make it and approach paying back their debt, or even just living with that debt?
If you have federal loans, you probably have a reprieve. Just enjoy it and hate the interest later. If you have private loans, unfortunately, your situation is going to be a lot more, it's going to be less forgiving because they don't really work with you as much. You have to also learn to forgive yourself for a situation that's beyond your control. Literally don't worry about your credit right now because a lot of people are hurting. It'll bounce back, and just please vote. Just get over it. Vote for Joe Biden. He might give you some money.
Well, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can follow Michael on Twitter. He is @YoungCynic. And let us know, how is student debt affecting you? Tweet us at The Nod Show.
Thank you so much for watching today's show. We'll see you next time for a brand new episode of The Nod.